What is up, guys? My name is Emiliano. Today I want to show you guys 3 different levels of push-ups. This is specifically for people that don't go to the gym, they train calisthenics, or they just simply prefer to work out at home. For you guys that have been watching for a while, you'll know that I started my fitness journey with pure calisthenics in my backyard, as you can see here, and I still train here every so often whenever I need to get a quick workout in, or I just don't have the time and whatever. And if you guys have seen any of my videos or just any kind of calisthenics video for that case out there, you've probably seen people doing some pretty crazy types of push-ups, right? Now you might be thinking, how is this beneficial for me? You know, how's this going to help me in my fitness journey? Well, I think this specific type of video really highlights, or it's a perfect representation of what progressive overload is, right? Starting with something that your body is simply, not very used to. Progressive overload is just going harder than last time, right? And by showing you guys 3 different levels of push-ups, you can see a visual representation of how your body can get stronger as long as you challenge it and you give it the right nutrition and recovery. Also, a big reason why I've made the gains that I've made in my chest, my shoulders, my arms is because I didn't just stop with one specific level of push-ups, right? I went from regular push-ups to decline push-ups to handstands to handstand push-ups, and now I am in the process of learning a full planche, and then from there, you can take it to a full planche, but that would just be god level calisthenic skills. But for this specific video, I just want to show you guys, the regular push-up, and then from there a decline push-up, and then from there something like weighted push-up and handstand push-ups, which would be my level 3. Starting with our regular push-up, something that most people can already do, whether they have stepped foot in the gym before or not. However, there are some people that, even though they have never stepped foot in the gym, they can't do a singular push-up, and in that case I would recommend that you do something like a wall push-up, which is a lot easier than a regular push-up. But yeah, I like doing any kind of push-up with parallettes because it allows you to get a bigger range of motion, specifically in the stretched part, as you can see here. And for a lot of people, they don't know this, but the eccentric portion, which is this part down here, is the most hypertrophic, and it's been proven by science. So if you're thinking of starting calisthenics, or you know that you're going to be hitting home workouts pretty often, I 100% recommend that you get some kind of parallettes. It doesn't have to be this kind, like this huge parallette. But if you do have the money and you really want to get serious, definitely go for it. But this would be my level 1. Level 1 push-ups, like you can do them explosive. You can do just slow push-ups, which is what I recommend you guys doing. And you guys might be thinking, how do you get to such an advanced level? Well, repetition is, of course, a big part of it. However, another big part, which I think a lot of people skip, is the perfection part of it, because you need consistency. However, that is not the only thing that you should focus on. Consistency is only one part of it, of the equation. The other very important part is good form and technique, right? Analysis, specifically. One thing is consistency, showing up, but another thing is analysis. Just because you show up, just because you do random push-ups every so often, doesn't mean that you're going to get to a level 3 push-up like a handstand push-up, right? You need some kind of analysis. And how do you do that? Well, by recording yourself, taking videos of yourself like this, or asking somebody else to do it, because that's the only way that you actually see your own form. A lot of people think, oh, well, it feels good, so it must be perfect form. Well, you definitely don't want to leave it up to chance like that. You want to record yourself, you want to see your technique, your range of motion, make sure that you're actually going low enough, you're not going too fast, because trust me, whenever you see yourself from a third point perspective like that, it is very different from, you know, just assuming that you have perfect form because you've been doing it for so long. But anyways, moving on to a decline push-up, which is a little bit more of a harder push-up, right? I would put this at level 2. It can be done by simply putting some kind of stepping stool, which is at a higher level from where your hands are. This is not too hard of a decline push-up because the chair is only about 3, 4, 5, 6 inches different to where my hands are. So it's not going to be that much harder, but it is a good place to start. And I will put this at a level 2 for push-ups. The way that you go from regular push-ups to something like this is by making sure that you can do at least 25 strict, clean, regular push-ups. It shouldn't be too hard. Even if you're a beginner in the gym, your body recovers really quickly and it responds to any kind of stimulus, so it shouldn't be too hard to be able to get there. But don't rush the process. When it comes to the form, everything is pretty much the same, right? Whether you're doing a handstand push-up, regular push-up, a lot of guys are actually surprised that the technique is actually pretty similar, even if you're doing a handstand push-up. In terms of, you know, your elbow movement, your shoulders. Why? Because you always want to really protect your shoulders, right? You want to have not so much a pronated scapula, you know, not a, what is it called? You don't want to protract your scapula too much, but you also don't want to retract too much, right? Retraction is probably more important because it does allow you to stretch your chest out a lot more, which is the primary muscle worked in a push-up. But yeah, when it comes to technique, right, always slow on the eccentric, always going slow on the way down. And when it comes to the way up, whenever you're pushing, contracting the muscle, you can go as quickly as you like. Typically a little bit quicker than the eccentric. And finally, moving on to our more advanced level 3 push-ups. How exactly do you go from level 2 to level 3? Well, I do believe that there's definitely a much bigger learning curve or a much bigger jump from a level 2 push-up to a level 3, right? I do believe this would be classified as a pro level push-up because it definitely doesn't take a week or even a month to get here. You do need to build a lot of not just strength, but balance and a lot more skills than just, you know, repetition. You do need a little bit more thinking, a little bit more effort when it comes to achieving something like this. But how do you do it? Well, in order to get to the next level of any kind of exercise, let's say specifically the push-up in this case, you want to perfect the previous level. So you want to continue doing level 2 push-ups as well as level 1. Now, what would be another level 2 push-up? I would not recommend that you do only decline push-ups. That's an amazing exercise, right? But I would actually recommend that you guys do something like a pike push-up because it's working more of the primary muscles worked in specifically a handstand push-up. And in that case, it would be a pike push-up. The way that you do it is that instead of having your body perpendicular to the floor, or not perpendicular, but parallel to the floor, let me just show you guys here. Instead of having your body like this, you want to essentially walk up so that your body basically creates kind of a mountain where your hips is basically the tip top of the mountain. But you still want to do the same thing. You don't want your elbows to flare out like this. You still want to kind of supinate them, you know, kind of supinate your biceps, and make sure that your elbows are pointing at about 45 degrees. So this would be 90, this would be 45. But just as a rule of thumb, right, keep your form very, very tight. As you can see, my head falls in front of my shoulders, not on top of it, not on top of them like that. And once you start, getting more comfortable with doing that, once you can do about 25 of these, is when I think it's a good place to start implementing the next steps to learn a handstand push-up. And how exactly do you start learning that handstand push-up? Sorry guys, it's just Texas heat fucking kills you. I'm not even gonna lie, right? The humidity, the 110 fucking degrees Fahrenheit that this place reaches is not very pleasant. But if I was able to do it in this heat, right, you guys can definitely learn the handstand push-up in whatever environment that you're in. But anyways, once you are very comfortable with the pike push-up, you want to start implementing a little bit more of specific exercises which are for that specific movement, right? If you want to actually achieve that handstand push-up, which would be a level 3 push-up, you want to start doing things like the handstand hold, the frog to handstand, which I'm about to show you guys right now. I think the best way to start is going from, pike push-up to handstand hold to then frog to handstand, to make it simple. So for example, let's say you can already hold a handstand for at least 10 seconds, I would say. Always keep a very tight hold. That would be your level 3 push-up, right? And if you guys couldn't hear what I said, you want to always keep very, very tight form, right? Same thing. Keep your elbows close to your body, and try and go as low as possible. However, you don't want to just go from straight pike push-up to that. You want to go from pike push-up to a handstand hold, which is what you do, before I actually went down. And once you can hold the handstand like that for 30 seconds, which can usually be done by just throwing your legs, learning the momentum, learning that. If you fall over, I always just tell people, instead of just falling on your head, you kind of do like a cartwheel. And you really shouldn't be afraid of hurting yourself as long as you're, taking your time with it, that kind of thing. But anyways, once you can hold a handstand like that for 30 seconds, then you want to start actually putting the move together. And the way that you do that is that you practice the eccentric as well as the concentric separately. And what I mean by that is, for example, when it comes to the push-up, there's the concentric whenever you go down, concentric whenever you go up, and eccentric when you go down. So let's say, for example, you can already hold a handstand for 30 seconds. Then you start practicing the eccentric, which is basically just going down as slowly as possible, right? Doing the negative of an exercise is a perfect way to start learning the movement so that your body is used to it. So you go down as slowly as possible and as comfortably as possible. I can go very low and very slow because, of course, I'm very used to the movement. But if you want to get to that level 3 push-up, you want to be really patient with this, because trust me, even if you can get to that level much quicker than the average person, it's not going to be worth it if you get an injury or you pull your shoulder muscle, that kind of thing. So you want to really master it. And trust me, it's going to look much better if you do actually master it before you try to attempt it. But anyways, you want to do that for 10 reps. After you're able to hold that handstand for 30 seconds, you want to do those, be able to do them for 10 reps. And then you want to do the positive. So instead of starting at the top, you start at the bottom. And all these exercises, by the way, you can do them with just on the floor with no parallettes. Now, how do you do the positive? How do you start at the bottom? You might be asking yourself, well, a good way to start that is very comfortable and it's not gonna, throw you off is the frog pose. So basically what you want to do, you want to put your knees on your shoulders and lean forward. Once you're used to that, you kind of want to raise your hips, and then just push. It might seem extremely hard, but trust me, if you're doing every single progression, you're doing decline push-ups, you're doing your regular push-ups, and you have perfect form, you should have sufficient strength to do that. And once you're able to do that for 10 reps, then you can put it all together. All the other small details, like, you know, the balancing part, all that, you're going to be learning it along the way as long as you stay consistent. But more importantly, you analyze. You take a video of yourself, you see exactly what your weak points are, and you adjust accordingly. And that would basically sum up that level 3 push-up, which should look like this. So that pretty much sums up this video for you guys. Level 1, level 2, and level 3 push-ups. If you have any questions, or you would like to see a more in-depth guide on how to learn the handstand push-up eventually, a full planche push-up and a full planche, which I'm still in the process of learning myself, then you guys can leave a like, subscribe, and also if you guys have any other kind of goal, whether it is losing weight, building more muscle in the gym, or with Pure Calisthenics, there's a link in the description so you can apply to work with me. It's a free 15-minute fitness consultation. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.